Jennifer pulled into her long driveway, which led to her house. It was almost dark. The old trees on either side looked like they were leaning in, their twisted branches reaching out like bony fingers into the becoming darkness. Jen turned on the porch light and dug around in her bag some more, even though she knew she wouldn't find anything. It was clear that her wallet was gone. She tried to think of what had happened as she remembered the busy evening at the mall during the Black Friday buying rush. She thought she might have been pickpocketed while she was among all the people getting last minute deals. Had she lost it in the food court where there were a lot of people, or earlier, when you were waiting in line for a long time to pay? She sighed and opened the front door. Her ginger cat Oscar was waiting for her, meowing loudly. "I'm sorry I'm late. Hope you didn't go hungry," she told him as she picked him up. While she was setting Oscar's food, her phone rang from inside her bag. The muffled sound made her jump. She tried to remember the number but couldn't. "Hello?" Jennifer Murphy. The voice was male, soft but not quite connected. "Yes. Who's this?" "I think I have something that you own. A wallet made of brown leather." Her heart beat faster. "Where did you find it?" "In the Walker Woods, near the old oak." Jennifer tensed up. Walker Woods was a dark, old forest that had not been developed and was on the edge of town. Local tradition says that those woods held horrible things. "That's a long way from the mall," she said slowly. "Are you sure it's mine?" "Your driver's license is on it. It says 420. One Elm Drive is where you live." The fact that the stranger knew Jennifer's address gave her the creeps. There was a tense pause before he spoke again. "See you tomorrow at dusk. About a mile in, there is a path that goes back to a clearing. I will then give you back your wallet." Jennifer really did not like this at all. People said it was easy to get lost in those woods, even during the day. They look like they belong in a different world at night. "Couldn't we meet somewhere public instead?" she replied, hoping he would agree. Something was wrong with this guy's soft, empty voice. It seemed like he wasn't affected by human feelings. After a long pause, he said, "No, it has to be in the woods. There won't be any trouble there." His words now had an edge that I didn't expect, like a threat that was just about to come out. Jennifer didn't say anything because she was afraid. She was aware that she shouldn't agree to meet a stranger by herself in the dark, scary woods. She knew it could be worse to say no to this man, though, because she had done it before. "Please give me back my wallet. What if I brought a friend?" Another tense silence followed before he gave a cold answer. "No one else. There will be no pocket or just you." The line went dead. Jennifer stood still, her hand shaking as she held her phone. Oscar cut between her legs because he could tell she was upset, absent-mindedly stroking his fur. She knew she didn't have much of a choice. Either do what this scary caller says and go into those scary trees by herself at night, or she will lose all of her ID and cards somewhere in those dark woods. She prayed that she wouldn't go back on her choice. Jen's dark living room was broken by the sharp ring of the phone. At the third ring, she almost dropped her tea mug, splashing hot liquid all over her fingers. She dropped the mug and picked up the phone as she hissed in pain. "Hello." Her voice shook a little. "That's me. Are we still going to meet tonight?" The same soft but spooky tone that had scared her before did it again. Jennifer closed her eyes for a short time to calm down. "Yes, I will be there." "Good. Do not be late." The line cut out again. As soon as she put down the phone, her hand started to shake and she felt bad about agreeing to meet him alone. What if he wasn't giving her back her wallet? What if this whole thing was a trick to get weak women to go into those evil woods and never come out? As she tossed and turned for the next few hours, she kept thinking of different ways to get away, but none of them worked. Even during the day, it was easy to get lost in the huge forest. By dark, the thick trees and bushes would make it almost impossible for her to see. It got dark way too quickly, covering everything outside in a thick fog that could not be seen. Jennifer put on her coat and checked the safety of the utility knife she had hidden in her pocket. She stroked Oscar's soft fur one last time and wished she could take him with her to comfort her. "I'll be back soon, I promise," she said in a whisper. A worried meow came back. She took a deep breath and walked out into the pitch black night. As her one car drove up the gravel road, the headlights cut through the dark but didn't make much of a dent in the trees ahead. Jennifer came to a slow stop at the edge of the forest where the road met the trees. Beyond that was a scene from a nightmare, a thick forest that went on forever into the darkness. As far as the eye could see, there were no man-made lights breaking through that sea of darkness. She turned on the flashlight on her phone with shaky hands and walked off by herself into the dark. It looked like the beam had a mind of its own because it moved all over the place, on top of twisted roots and around tree trunks. Jennifer moved slowly, and every crackle and rustle made her heart jump into her mouth. She started to doubt her decision to go by herself, thinking that attackers might be waiting just outside the thin circle of light. She stopped when she caught a flash of color up ahead. Was that a figure standing still among the grasping boles? She just stood there and stared, hoping it would turn into a tree trunk or bush. When nothing happened, she got scared and swung the light all over the place. Nothing but empty forest stared back, as if it were upset that it hadn't caught its meal. Jennifer hurried on, aware that her anxiety was making her jumpy, but she couldn't ignore her gut feeling that she was being followed. It seemed like a lifetime had passed in the 30 minutes that had passed before they came out onto a small area, covered in leaves. The beam went through every shade as she stood still at the edge. It seemed like the place had a bad vibe from past wrongdoings. Jennifer was sure she heard a soft shuffling sound getting closer somewhere in the line of trees that was moving around. She opened her mouth to call out, but then changed her mind. A loud boom shook the night behind her, sending her spinning and making her cry out in fear. But there was nothing. There was just a faint echo that made fun of her fear. That was the last straw for Jennifer. She turned around and ran back the way she came, not caring if she got lost. She was only thinking about getting away from the evil that was coming at her from every direction. As she crashed through the thorns, branches cut her cheeks. She didn't care that she had painful stitches in her side. A dim light up ahead gave her new energy to keep going. She screamed and jumped out of the trees, not stopping to look for danger. She ran to her car and slammed the door open. She was shocked, so the keys in her shaking hands didn't do anything. A pounding on the window made her scream, but then she saw that it was just her image staring back at her with wild eyes. Jennifer put the car in gear and stomped her foot, leaving dirt all over the road. She took one last look back at the sea of trees that were already recovering their prey, but there were no signs of people inside. There were, however, cold eyes watching her run away from her in those endless depths of dark. They were sad that the hunt had failed for now. Jennifer couldn't sleep that night because she kept thinking about how scary it was in the woods until her fear became hard to separate. She couldn't get the dark thoughts out of her head even when dawn finally came. The pale fingers of light didn't help. Later that morning, there was a knock on the door. Jennifer saw 2 uniformed officers on the steps, but her vision was blurry. She immediately thought the worst. Last night, someone told us that there was strange behavior in Walker Woods. "May we please come in and ask a few questions, ma'am?" Jennifer told them everything with a shaking voice, from the scary phone call to running away in fear. The police were patient, but she could tell they didn't believe what she was saying. One person with a friendly smile said, "These woods have a long history of scaring off easily scared locales." As soon as they left, the promises that it was all in her head fell flat. Jennifer chose to be careful because she was feeling even more uneasy than before. She took everything out of her bag so that if someone followed her, there would be nothing valuable left inside. Next, She added more protection lights to her car and around her house. She also got a can of pepper spray at the store because she promised herself she would never feel without power again. The next night, she was closing up for the night when she heard headlights coming up the driveway. Jennifer's heart raced when she saw the truck coming up behind her until it went by without hurting her. She told herself she wasn't being so jumpy, but she couldn't get rid of the feeling that someone was watching her. A letter with no return address showed up the next morning. Jennifer shook as she opened it and saw a small piece from the local newspaper inside. It was about a woman who had gone missing in Walker Woods years ago and was never found. She was horrified to see that the woman looked a lot like her. That was the last thing I could take. Jennifer drove straight to the police station with as much proof as she could and told them to take her fears seriously. But the police weren't sure because they didn't have any proof of a real threat or a name for the unknown caller. One person even went so far as to say she was trying to cause trouble for no reason. Jennifer left, angry and knowing she had to figure this out on her own. That night, as it got dark, she sat in her stopped car and looked out at the forest that went on forever. There might be answers, and maybe even danger in those twisted trees, if she was brave enough to go back in alone at night with only the moonlight to help her find her way. Jennifer stepped out into the silky blackness again, holding the pepper spray tightly. She was determined not to leave until she found the real evil that was hiding in Walker Woods' snake, like Grip. Jennifer moved slowly along the narrow path that wound deeper into the woods. She pointed the camera light on her phone forward to see roots and bushes instead of using it as a flashlight that would have shown her where she was. Before she was ready, the moon, which was hidden by clouds, didn't help much as she walked below the tall trees, whose hooked branches reached up into the darkness and seemed to grab her. During the drive out, a rough plan for what to do had come together. She would go back to the area and hide, hoping that the person who was bothering her would come out when she left her empty purse as bait. This time, though, she had a firm grip on the pepper spray can and had set her phone to record audio and video in case she needed to finally show the truth. Jennifer stopped in her tracks when she heard a loud crash in the dark. Her heart was beating very fast until she realized it was just a raccoon, taking a break from its nighttime hunting, taking slow, deep breaths to calm her nerves. She trudged on until the narrow path suddenly ended at the edge of the clearing. She looked through gaps in the branches that covered its misty heart and saw no sign of movement inside. So she started the careful process of hiding in the tangle of shrubbery and chose a hollow under an old, gnarled oak to stay out of sight. As the night went on, it moved painfully, slowly. Every little sound sent Jennifer's vitals tingling again, no matter how hard she tried to calm her mind. The forest was sleeping quietly, so her plan didn't seem to work. She had to move around a lot to keep her muscles from getting tight around her fear. When something moved outside the leafy screen that blocked the opening, it was almost midnight. The sound was so quiet that she almost missed the strange rhythm, that it could have been an animal on the hunt. Jennifer held her breath and pointed her phone camera between two trees so that it would make a bright rectangle of the misty space beyond. At first, just the night. Still trees and bushes met her searching lens until a shadow came together to form a solid shape, the hunched figure of a man. He moved slowly and carefully as he carefully scanned the area and its edges. Jennifer's heart was beating so fast that she could almost hear it as the figure moved closer to the far side of her forest. For a fleeting moment, her phone gave her a view of the hated face, but the shadows quickly covered it up again. She let out a shaky breath that she hadn't realized she was holding as the raccoon knelt down to look through something that had been thrown out among the leaves. He found what he was looking for and let out a soft sigh of relief before putting the object away. Jennifer's blood ran cold when she realized that his scary treasure hunt wasn't over yet. He was looking around again, his eyes still glowing with obsessive need, making it clear that he planned to abduct someone else if something wasn't done right away. Jennifer did something before she could give in to fear. She jumped up with a cry that couldn't be put into words, held out pepper spray, and charged from behind. When her angry ghost suddenly erupted, it scared the prowler, who scrambled backwards in fear before her pepper mist covered his face. Even his masks couldn't protect him from the fiery blast. He was thrashing and writhing as Jennifer drove forwards mercilessly, pepper spray ready to destroy any plans for revenge before they could even form. Her prey quickly scrambled weakly through tangled undergrowth into the distance, escaping only physically while the law still had its say. Jennifer's anger was spent, but justice was finally done through her bravery and quick thinking. With shaky hands, she turned her phone camera around to frame the space again and captured the whole terrifying scene to show skeptical authorities as proof beyond a doubt. She had the ending to her nightmare in the palm of her hand.